Ramon Roca from GoofyNet, which like people who are familiar with the community network ecosystem know that, this is a very well-known community network. And it's also actively questioning the kind of economic models which is existing in the capitalist world. It's also a crowdsourced network. So, Ramon, can you, in 5 minutes, talk a bit about the network?
Thank you for having me today. And yes, I'm from GoofyNet. Actually, I'm also in a rural area. Let me show you where I am. Do you see the window? So there is nothing outside. I mean, I'm not living in a village, but I'm living in a farm. But happy to be connected online with you. Because 20 years ago we started with fiber optics. But rather than talk about ourselves and GoofyNet, here I think we are because of RedEsperansa. We joined RedEsperansa, which is an initiative for building community networks in Timor-Leste, between Indonesia and the north of Australia. And this is a very important project for us. I mean, because of using the experience that we had, and hopefully, and RedEsperansa means also network of hope. So we are working with the hope of providing better connectivity in that part of the world. Our humble, let's say, contribution from GoofyNet is trying to provide our experience. I'm very much involved more in the technical aspect and community building. I'm afraid that we don't have Fernando, who was joining from Timor right now. Now I'm sometimes here and sometimes there, and Fernando is already working in Timor because of the electricity problems that they are experiencing in the village and so on. But we have Monica here with us. So I would like to also ask Monica to talk and take the floor and explain a bit more, because Monica is from Naroman Esperansa school, actually who told me about the initiative in Timor-Leste. I'm very happy to actually working with them. This is where we started the network and infrastructure in the interior of the island. So we are not yet working in the let's say in the capital and in the city, but in the very rural area where the coffee is being built and where this kind of project really makes sense, and in particular also helping to the academic institutions and the schools and universities. They are doing a great job there. So Monica, if you can continue and explain what we are doing there.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And we are very grateful to this contribution of Ramon to our project. So this is complementary to a bigger project that is related to the education, the quality of education in East Timor, because there we are starting or developing an early childhood education teacher university. And actually it's a real whole campus with the institute and the school. And the educational model is based on a blended learning to allow personalization for a student-centered learning environment. And to make this happen, we really needed to have good connectivity and to be able to share resources. And so internet was very important, and there's no really good connectivity there. Perhaps later Ramon will explain what there was and what we have now. But what we are now enjoying, thanks to the starting of this project, is to have this connectivity, and especially to be able to share content and services. Because the network has started with an intranet in this institute in Naroman Esperansa, and here the students can access, students and teachers of course, can access through this local server and the LMS, the learning platform. They can access all their materials, the projects, and for the subjects that they need to take. because it's published there. And as they are using devices, one per student, and with the offline version of Moodle, they can use it efficiently on campus, but also when they go home, they can continue using and accessing all their content. And at the same time, the campus connectivity helps teachers and students, and also the students of the school, to use internet and to use and really access important material, research, collaboration, quality of final products, independent learning, and personalized feedback. So it has been a great opportunity, or it is a great opportunity for all the learning environment in Naroman Esperansa, Light of Hope, in Gleno, in East Timor.
Thank you so much, Monica and Rama. We will now move on to Tony Leota, who runs a community network called BlueWave Wireless in the country of Samoa. It also has a very different topography compared to other countries, and a very special country also. So can you tell us a bit about your community network?
Thank you. Well, namaste, talafalava, and good afternoon. I'll try to keep this short due to time, and I do have a video, and I'll wait for the organizers to set it up to play, but just a quick introduction. My name is Togisala Tony Sua Leota. I am the Chief Technical Officer and also Chief Operations Officer for BlueWave Wireless. BlueWave Wireless is a Samoan-owned and operated telecommunications company. Again, we use not only LTE services, but satellite-based solutions, again, to provide solutions for rural and remote areas. Given today in our panelists, we in Samoa, to give a little context of where Samoa is, we're in the middle of the South Pacific Ocean. It's between New Zealand and Hawaii, so we're kind of right there in the middle by the equator. So just to give you an idea of our country, but again, first and foremost as well, I'd like to thank Sylvia of the APNIC Foundation and also ISEA Asia for, again, in believing in the project, and I can sit here proudly and say that how impactful and important the support that has been, and also in terms of the project and how it had such an impact in our country that, again, that the government ministries like the Ministry of Women and Women, Community, and Social Development, but also as well the Ministry of Education and the Honorable Prime Minister of our country has lended their support in the project. But we couldn't do that without, again, without APNIC and ISEA Asia in supporting our project. But again, our goal is, again, to provide that solution for connectivity, because in Samoa, that it's still a huge issue. And second of all, it's no good about having internet if you don't know what to do with the internet. So we were happy to, again, to do a rollout in terms of raising the digital literacy or digital fluency, not only in the villages, but the schools as well.
I'd like to ask the same questions to Beatrice, because Singapore is also a country which is relatively better in Asia. So how are the traditional ISPs taxed? Is tax collected? What is the regulatory framework like? Yeah, you're also charging for the internet which you're providing. So how does that work? Can you?
We are headquartered in Singapore, but we actually operate in Asia Pacific outside of Singapore, because Singapore is already so well connected. I think really for the Philippines, maybe if I can take that, the use of, is used by the government to put out tenders to connect the rural areas. I think it's a great initiative. It's very sophisticated. So we have actually tendered with DICT to connect a lot of rural sites in Philippines. Same with the Bhakti program in Indonesia as well. And I know that India also has a use of, so that is very sophisticated. I think maybe for some other rural areas that we cover in other countries, we start to see regulators starting to protect the consumer interests more, rather than putting very heavy regulatory fees on the foreign operators, which either we absorb or we have to put it back to the consumer. We can see that they are trying to modernize the rules a little bit more, reducing it, scrapping it, finding other ways to overcome that. And we also see them engaging a lot in consultations with ourselves. So they ask for feedback on what's our opinion on maybe like the upcoming different type of technology coming up. How should the regulatory level the playing field for all of us? So there are some improvements, I would say, in countries that are not so progressive yet. But of course, with the Philippines and Indonesia and India, with the use of, is actually, I would say, a good thing. Yeah, just based on the many countries that we cover today.
Ramon, I want to come to you both also. What is the model, like the general model of last mile connectivity in Spain? And like, how is your network different? And have you been doing any sort of advocacy with the government to change some of the policies? Can you give a brief overview about that?
Yeah, this is actually a very important topic. It has been historically because we have been have to fight for 20 years with the regulatory and authorities and all the legal stuff. And actually we'll be also in Timor-Leste. We're planning now, to start running some wireless connectivity, but we are looking for starting deployment fiber optics also next year if possible. We have a very ambitious plan regarding to that, and regulatory aspects are very, very important. And I will say that not only for Spain what we experienced, but also worldwide. I mean, there are several key points that have to be underlined. One of it is that community networks, because generally speaking, worldwide, telecommunications have been liberalized in some difference between countries, but at the end of the day, is very much dominated, that sector, by very large companies, multinationals, right, that typically take all the market. And this is the reality what happens worldwide. But it doesn't have to be a contradiction with having also local communities. And those local communities should be allowed to do that. I mean, should not be, we don't like monopolies. If we are thinking in the concept of liberalization, by definition, it means that there has to be a room for local communities to work in a legal framework, so that has not to be a problem with that. But reality is that when you go to any country, and same happened in Spain, but also in Latin America and Asia and everywhere, when you are running telecommunications locally and as a community, it seems that you are something like not something strange within the sector, and it doesn't have to be. It has to be very much normalized. So if it's liberalized, everybody has to be done. I typically use the analogy, and in Timor-Leste they understand very well. I mean, they make their own coffee, right? So internet is something that everybody has to be able to do that, like the coffee. And then if you go to a Starbucks, I mean, a big multinational corporation, for taking a coffee, that's okay, of course. But it doesn't mean that you have to be forced to go to Starbucks, but you have to also be allowed with the regulatory framework to make your own internet, just like the coffee that they are doing in Timor-Leste. They can also do their own internet and create content and so on, like actually what we are doing there with Kalohan Académico, which is the part of the RedEsperansa project that is providing content, and Monica previously was with explaining it for the community education. So it's very, very important, and it's not, and I can speak generally that community networks and local initiatives and circular economies have to be enabled, because if not, what we have is extractive economies that working at a global, large scale, that doesn't take care about the minorities, that are just taking money from one country and giving to the others. And actually, we want to, if we are thinking on development and have a good use of the internet, it means that also have to be careful with local initiatives, despite they are small. And that's it's a problem worldwide, generally speaking, that regulatory is only it's very much normalized that big companies are in telco sector, but what about the communities and so on? They have to be recognized, and it's very, very important, not because they are big, but because it's an alternative. And actually, I will say, and by finishing, sorry for being that late, we'll normalize that the real concept of liberalization. Liberalization only happens when really there are alternatives. And if the only alternatives is very large companies and extractive economies, then we have a very big problem on sustainability, on looking to the future, and regulatory frameworks have to be very accurate and ensure that there is nothing wrong with, and there is no limit for local communities to develop their own infrastructure.
Tony, do you have anything add to the, like, how is it in Samoa? Is there a, are traditional ISPs taxed? Is that collected tax used for the betterment, better connectivity? How are the community network generally, what is the sustainability model of community networks, if you can talk about that?
Well, thank you for the question. I think it's very important. Well, here at BlueWave, we've taken a different approach into looking and see what model works. And we decided to go back to the communities because, again, they're the end users. They are the ones who utilize the services. So that is the approach that we took with the community connectivity and digital fluency project, along with what we did in schools to teach digital technologies utilizing STEM. And what we did was go back to the community, find out what works and what doesn't work, what are the challenges, and then come back and report that into and provide data and facts to support that in order to give to, again, to policymakers. Because we truly believe that, don't just be a talker, be a doer as well. And I think those go hand in hand in order to get those much needed information, to create those policies that will open up funding and also support. So that is just the approach that BlueWave has taken, and I think it's worked very well, considering, again, with the support that we've gotten recently with the Minister of Ministry of Women, and then Minister of Education, and also her Honorable Madam Prime Minister, in terms of how we can create policies in order for betterment for our people. So that's just the approach that BlueWave has taken. Thank you.
Thank you. I have one question for all of you, which is, again, I just asked Tony, but about sustainability, how are we going to, is there a plan to exit generally when we set up community network and move on to another place? If not, then how is sustainability planned in your projects? So, Beatrice, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So I was sharing that affordability is a very key DNA of Kacific. When we set out to launch our satellite and sell our services, we put a promise that 1 gig will not be more than USD $2 or $2.50. I think the voucher system has worked very well for us. We have seen that it provides, rather than coming up with $100 or $200 for a plan, for unlimited broadband plan, for example, you can now pay as you use. So as you need it, you pay, and it makes it very bite-sized and affordable for the communities in, say, like Philippines, the sari-sari shops and things like that. So that, to us, is one of the biggest sustainability. Another way of thinking about it would be, we have certain local ISPs or entrepreneurs who would rather take on the whole system and just pay us a nominal small fee and run the voucher system on their own and model it in terms of the pricing and flexibility on their own area. And we allow them the flexibility to do so as well, because whatever revenue they get from it and they understand the community well, they are able to give us the minimum wholesale rate that we require for the bandwidth to be working. So we find that as a very sustainable model, as a secondary way of running community Wi-Fi. So these are the ways that we are making it sustainable. Yeah.
Thank you, Beatrice.
Oh, well, let me start with that. I mean, in GIFINET, actually, what's very important to understand is that telecommunications actually is a business. Everybody recognizes that. So ultimately, the goal is to create a business model which is friendly and adaptable to the small communities and so on. We are actually following the principles for Elinor Ostrom. We got inspired from her. I don't know if you know her. She was the first woman to get a Nobel Prize in 2009 and was about governing the commons. So at the end of the day, sustainability can be achieved as long as there is an economic model behind, and it could be. It's a business for the big companies that has to be also ways for making it sustainable, adapted to the logics for indigenous and communities and small. It's a different way of doing the things, but the people need that. So there are ways to get embedded in their local economies and get sustainable. And ultimately, that's the big goal. And it could happen. And looking to the Elinor principles, we found very much inspirations for that regarding to the commons. So it's very, Elinor Ostrom was describing how to manage natural resources worldwide in a way that are sustainable across, centuries and even millenniums. Was looking to the whole history. We can apply the same principles to connectivity. Why not? Technology is new. It appeared in just a few years ago, but we could apply, the same principles that were very well designed for communities from centuries. So we are not. It's nothing new. It's about adapting the technology to the common sense and getting embedded in local economies instead of just, a speculative practice or, this kind of new economics that happened in the very recent years and very much are associated to the technology sector. But it doesn't mean that have to be. Actually, the innovation maybe is to apply, the technology for what it's useful, but instead of, speculative practices and, ultra-liberal economies or very much concentrated in a few companies, be much more adapted to local economies. That's a real challenge that actually I think that it makes sense to work for.
Thank you. Tony, do you want to add anything to it? Like, how can we work on sustainability of community network? How do you ensure that in your community?
Well, I think the approach that at least that we've seen that works is, again, going back to the communities, teaching them the advantages and opportunities that lie within technology. And I think once they get that, and then the need or the necessity to access that connectivity, that there can turn around and come back in terms of creating that sustainability. Again, you can put out a network out there or drop a tower wherever you put, but if people don't understand or know how to utilize it, and you don't have anybody utilizing that service, then they're basically it's a bad investment or it's a bad approach. And that's why, again, what's worked for BlueWave is going back to the community. Don't have our people fit with what we think. Go out there, create that, give them the opportunity, give them that knowledge, and then, again, you can come back and then build it from there, which to us will turn around and create that sustainability. So that's just the approach that works for us so far. So.
Thank you so much, Tony, and thank you, everyone. With this, we are closing the session.